All right, Allison, let's start with the big picture. Why is choosing the right digital banking platform such a pivotal decision for financial institutions today?
It touches the employee. It touches, obviously, the account holder. It affects everything from the outcomes that they're trying to drive. And what we find in our recent research on consumers, which we do every year, we do recent research to just take a pulse. Where's the future of finance going? Primacy is now determined by the quality of the digital banking platform, meaning that the institution that a consumer says that they choose most often or is their most preferred, it's based by a large margin on the digital banking application they use most frequently.
Well, and I guess that would make sense. It's, I think on average, like our users log in like 6 to 7 times a week.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
You're checking it daily. It's one of the most traversed apps, period, is the finance app, and where you go every day. That is increasingly where primacy is determined. That's not to say branches and call centers and everything else I just mentioned aren't important. But when you talk to consumers, and in particular, not just younger generations, because this goes all the way to boomers, but in particular, younger generations are even more likely to say that's the case. And here's the interesting thing, because we also look at research among institutions. And what's startling in everything that we just talked about, because I bet a lot of institutions watching this are going, yeah, we knew that. What's startling is that 40% of financial institutions today are settling for a, quote, good enough digital banking solution.
Yeah.
They literally, when we give them a lot of adjectives to choose from, I'm content, I'm satisfied, it's good enough, I'm ecstatic, I'm frustrated, I'm bored, right? You have some negatives in there. The number one thing they talk about, it's good enough. And that's what's probably most striking is we're saying that you're settling for good enough on something as important and essential to everything we just discussed. That was where we just kind of go, this is where digital banking conversions are kind of in this weird place of like, why are you settling for good enough for something this essential to what your future is as an institution?
It's a great point. If you look at the most successful financial institutions in the country, whether it be by growth, which would be someone like maybe like Chime or something, right? Or you look at obviously the mega banks and some of the big growers, it's the opposite mindset. They're constantly updating their app. They're constantly adding things to their app. They do not have a good enough approach to anything.
I think that there's a couple of things happening. This is my hypothesis, so I'll tell you when it's research and when it's my hypothesis. I think there's a general sentiment that there's enough feature parity in the market right now. If we were just comparing pixels and pixels, that I think a lot of financial institutions say it's good enough. I don't need to make that change. I think we need to do a better job at Alkami, certainly expressing that there's something bigger beyond this with the digital sales and service platform, but digital banking is an integral part of that platform, right? The solution. But I think there's a bit of that. I think there's this risk factor of, is the view really worth the climb, right? And
or something could be better. Okay, I agree with you. It's better,
right?
But it's not that much better
to
justify this.
All that change,
yeah.
Right? So I think there's that. But listen, those who are bold enough to do it, the number one reason they do it is because they want to improve that user experience.
Yeah.
So we know it's like they know there's something better out there, and now I think it's a matter of, and this is why we designed this whole part of the website, is to really equip buyers in the market or people even contemplating this, all the tools and resources you need to make a decision, whether you choose Alkami or anyone else, but to go through that. That's kind of the inspiration for it.
Why does it seem so daunting to people?
Well, I think, first of all, there might be a bit of a misperception because when these digital banking conversions don't go well, and we won't name names, but we all know some names.
Some pretty high-profile ones.
High profile, it's front page news. And we've asked recent converters in the past 3 years, would you do it again? Was it a good experience? 90% said they would do it again.
Oh, interesting.
So there's some hope here where I think when you see that, you go, wow, 90% of them, for everything that you just mentioned, they're happy that they made that decision. But what we want to do is say, okay, you don't want to be one of the 10%. So how do we basically codify best practices, not just based on our hundreds of implementations, because we have a lot of intellectual property of doing this.
Yeah, we've got the scar for our wisdom.
Seen it, right? We know where it can go wrong and how to mitigate, but also more importantly, looking beyond our four walls into the market at large and asking those institutions, what steps did you follow where you said, hey, let's compare those that said it was good to the 10% who said it wasn't good.
Now,
What were the
quick
steps
question on
that are
that
different?
10%.
Yeah.
Was that just the 90% that said they do it again? Now, are you just talking about just Alkami clients there?
No.
Or you're saying of people that
In-
changed over the last few years,
yes.
90% of them, whether they went with Alkami or somebody else,
Exactly.
ultimately they said, yeah, it was worth it. We do it again.
We do it again.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So it's like, so the risks are already in your favor if you're an institution watching this to make the jump. But what we wanted to do, because we know that if it is the 10%, that's a bad day at the office, right? How do we mitigate that by codifying and studying what are the best practices that the 90% do and say they do well? And what are the practices the 10% miss and even say they regret they missed in looking in hindsight that would have made their launch a success?
Well, that's actually what I want to dig into now.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me the answers to
Okay.
that, right? So as you go and you pull these pieces of survey, okay, what is it that you can do to prepare, maybe early on or whatever, to ensure, because there's got to be a reason that some of them don't go that well. What are the commonalities?
So commonalities. One thing that we found was the ones that go well, they have a very thorough needs assessment done. We normally think of the norm like you need to have a business case. Yes, you do. And we actually have a template for business case. You need an RFP template. Absolutely, you do. Check. Those are normal things people would think of. What was missed by many institutions that regretted and what was consistent among those that did well is they had a needs assessment, meaning they had alignment internally across multiple organizations to understand what are the needs, why are we doing this in the first place before we even potentially get to a business case. Let's talk about what are the priorities and why are we making this decision potentially.
You almost have to remind people all along the way. This isn't something you do and you do it over a weekend.
Right.
This is like a 6, 9, sometimes 12-month process.
Right.
People can forget along the way why we're doing it.
Why did we do it?
Yeah.
If you don't have that guidepost to go back to say, wait, what were the criteria when we all sat around? What did we need?
Yeah.
You can go back to that as your version of the truth to say, this is what's most important. That was one. Second thing, you mentioned this, it's getting the alignment early and often. So the organizations that do this well are able to get multiple stakeholders, multiple departments involved, whether that is digital and IT and operations, those are obvious, but bringing in marketing, making sure regulatory compliance, the different teams that need to touch this in some way, because digital banking touches virtually every team, getting them involved, not just toward the back end of it, but getting them involved early and then keeping them involved through the process. Another big change that we saw between those that do it well and those that maybe regret. And then I'll give you one more because we've got a lot of resources on here.
That's all right. That's tough.
It's getting peer feedback. So having the ability to really talk to multiple institutions that have gone through this and have the road, the miles on their tires to show for it, getting their input as peer references. So another thing that we're really super committed to here is giving prospects and others who may or may not even be looking at us a forum and an outlet to talk to our clients, not just to find out about Alkami, but to find out about what did you go through the process? What did you wish you knew at the end of the day that you didn't know, so that they can learn from each other and we can keep codifying a playbook based on all these inputs from the market at large as to what does a great thorough evaluation look like that isn't overwhelming, but actually takes you through methodical steps so that you at least can have confidence and conviction that if you do want to stay where you are, that's a deliberate choice and it's not just because you're settling for good enough.
Interesting question here.
Tell me.
Why did Alkami invest in creating a conversion toolkit for financial institutions, even if they don't choose to go with Alkami?
Yeah. Because here's the deal, right? One, you have to first understand the mission of Alkami, okay? And our mission, and as the founder, when you built this company, we exist to help regional and community FIs compete against mega banks, digital capabilities, and win. So if you subscribe to that mission, and if you also know that 40% of those same regional and community FIs are right now settling for good enough, and if you also know that primacy and selection of your primary financial institution is often more likely to be determined by the quality of that digital banking experience, if we're mission-centered, we have to be true to our mission. Yeah. And that's really where it came down to. And we were like, look, There are great consultants in the market out there. Regardless if you have a consultant in the tent with you or not, you now can take advantage of these free resources.
I love it. I mean, it's hard to say we exist to help regional community financial institutions win, but only if they go with us. Like it doesn't.
It would be a little hypocritical.
It's not true, right? Ultimately, we know if we have a thriving community financial institution market, a rising tide lifts all boats.
That's exactly
right.
right.
And so, really, for us, it's like let's make sure that that market is healthy. Because really, the only existential threat to Alkami as a company is if our entire nation consolidates to like a dozen institutions,
As
right?
we've
So,
seen in other markets.
so we
right?
want there to be thousands of institutions
Right.
out there. We want there to be consumer choice. We want there to be choices for small businesses that, maybe won't get banked by one of the big guys or things like that. So we want this to be the case. And so I love it. I love the fact that we're doing this for the market at large.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'd love for you to go with us if we're a good fit for you. We're not a good fit for everybody. We'd love for you to go with us, but regardless, what we want you to do is we want you to be successful, because what we don't want to do is go the way so many other countries have had, to where all the power and the finances are consolidated into a small handful of financial institutions.
Exactly.
It's not good for any of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why we get up every day. Literally, that's why we get out of bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Allison, as always, you are a wellspring of knowledge, and you're so articulate in the way that you deliver it. Thanks so much for this. I'm really excited about having this now as a resource for all regional and community financial institutions. And thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.